So we have the first part in. This is, if I were to push down, I'll show you. See how it got lighter? You can see it on my finger. So what this mixture is a mixture I use for doing underpainting. This is paint, obviously. It is thinner. It is alkyd. And it is a little bit of Damar varnish. And the reason why I mix those together is because it creates a very sticky paint. You can apply it thin, it's transparent. The point of the underpainting is to kind of give a tonal variance to the entire thing and kind of play with the tones. So we know I've got a cloud in here, I've got the moon in here, I've got some clouds and some sky in there, and then I've got some mountains here. But then there's a background, there's a separation between the mountains and the foreground. And then you've got a hedgerow and some trees, your distant farm with its tree work, and then your foreground with your flowers. This is technically not permanent right now. I'm gonna actually destroy a little bit of it to demonstrate to you how not permanent it is. If I take a Q-tip with just a little bit of thinner on it, and let's say I want to do a lightning bug here, I can pull that all the way out to the surface. I can pull that down to 0. And here, okay? The other thing I can do is I can go in and gently brush this background and introduce thinner to the background, which allows, you can't see it yet, but it allows the paint to move a little bit. If I am very, very careful, I can take a semi-dry brush, and I'm just gonna wipe this brush down, and I can go through here, and I can move that paint and that thinner. And I have to be careful because it'll leave a white mark, but I can do that, and that will begin to separate the value of my hedgerow and the background. It also begins that effect of fog between the mountains and the foreground. And then there's a lot of times you have people go, well, what if it isn't perfect? This is the underpainting, it doesn't have to be, okay? So there we go. That's the first start. We're gonna go in and seal the painting, and then, we're gonna go in and let the painting dry, and we can go in and start to lay detail over this with the same colors until we get a real solid base. You can see the fireflies, some of the plant shapes. This does not need to be perfect. We are going to paint over it. But when you do this, you fight the white less. So I don't have to put down as much paint to cover the white, which means I can focus more on the tonal value. Also, when the light comes in, passes through the paint, hits the base and bounces, it is already starting to resist things at different levels. Darker areas don't let through as much light. Lighter areas do. It's pretty straightforward. So we got our moon, we've got like some cloud shape kind of thrown in. We have our house, we have our trees, our foreground plants, our rows of food, some fog, mountains, trees. We'll have close up here, clouds, moon. When you're painting, if you want to keep going, you have to follow the fat over lean principle. So one of the things we don't want to do right now is we do not want any texture in the painting, especially towards the back. We really, and I don't mean like texture like more or less color. I mean like actual paint texture. If I end up with paint texture on the back, it ruins the effect. If I wanted to right now, I could spray this down with thinner and whiten this all the way back to the beginning. It's not permanent yet. If I wanted to, and I don't want to layer paint, I could let this dry for 24 hours and jump back into it. It wouldn't be completely dry, but it'd be tacky enough that I could lay paint over it. And as long as I do that right, it'll dry in the right layers. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to step back for a few hours. I'm going to let this kind of cure a little bit, and I'm going to come back to it. With all the drying agents present, it's going to become tacky much faster. However, you can't add too much of that to make it dry fast, and it goes through a phase where it's sticky, but it's not permanent. And if you rush it, you can end up with problems. When people paint with oils, it's fat over lean, meaning you add fat as you build layers up. But the paint underneath, if it's not dry, takes even longer to dry. So I kind of like to let it sit a little bit in between. It guarantees a more stable base. There we go.